And we are back, everyone. And without any further delay, let's bring in the land commissioner over in Texas, George P. Bush. George, welcome back.
Great to be with you, Brian.
Hey, listen, I know you got your hands full now. How have some of these executive orders affected your job and your people in Texas?
Well, taking a step back, our state really relies upon oil and gas as about a third of our economy. And if we were our own country, we'd be the 9th largest country in the world. So for us, and really by any measure, this is an incredible impact on a lifeblood of our economy that on average pays an oil and gas field worker over $120,000. The way that this has been done is, without transparency, by the stroke of a pen. And so it creates a lot of uncertainty in the business when you're looking at capital outlays for the coming years to not know what direction this country is going. And people forget that this industry rescued our economy during the Obama recession of 09, 010, when virtually 1 of 3 jobs created across our country was in the oil and gas industry. So instead of being given a pat on the back and thinking about how we create jobs after this pandemic, we're actually slapping this incredible industry in the face and throwing up roadblocks wherever we possibly can and not allowing states like ours to determine the industry's future.
And a lot of Texas oil and gas, I have since learned, invest in clean technology, invest in wind. It's not that you guys are it's not that you're anti-green green technology, right?
That's absolutely right. So people forget Texas is the country's leader in terms of wind energy production. Over 20% of our own power grid is generated through wind, and solar is fastly growing as well. But, Brian, this is about the free markets. We don't have incentives where we, like the Department of Energy, slap on additional benefits to the renewable energy. This is just strictly a free market. And finding the lowest price point for electricity will provide savings to all of our fellow citizens, including in Texas. And so that's the way to approach this, is a slow transition that's transparent so that all industries involved know the direction instead of just an overnight stroke of the pen.
So these are the stats that coming out of Texas. You've lost about 60,000 jobs due to the pandemic because people aren't flying, they're not traveling. The tourism has fallen and it hurts hospitality, but no one's burning oil and gas. It's projected in 2022 you'll lose 120,000 jobs due to the ban on leases on federal land, which is now an executive order, and 100,000 are employed as 100,400 employed in the oil and gas industry as of December 2020. So many livelihoods are at stake. You worry about some other things. What else do you worry about that's coming down the pike from Washington that affects all those jobs?
Well, looking at the Obama playbook, we know that there will be litigation in connection with the Endangered Species Act. So when this was drafted in the late 70s, the intent was to basically list and protect species, but then with science and data help recover these species and then delist them. And that would be a sign of success, right? But since the act was passed, less than 1% of all species that have been listed have been delisted because it's a cottage industry for plaintiffs' attorneys throughout the country. So we've been working during the Trump days and now hopefully we can find some agreement in the Congress to reform the sue and settle tactic where plaintiffs' attorneys get money. But we think 120 different species will attempt to be listed. This affects national readiness. There's one piece of litigation we've been successful on in connection with the golden sheep warbler in Central Texas. If you can believe this, Fort Hood, the largest military installation in our country, has had to shut down some aspects of their preparation because of this listing. So when you're talking about endangered species, but yet endangering national security, you know that this is a law that's gone adrift. But we expect other areas of overreach from the federal government as relates to waters of the U.S. treaty, land management. But really the thrust of what they're attacking is the oil and gas industry, and that's where we're going to be fighting in the courts.
I want you to hear and tell me if you can relate to what Senator John Kennedy said yesterday on our show for Louisiana, Cut 36.
I believe in all of the above energy policy. Wind, solar, geothermal, nuclear. But also oil and gas. We can't run the greatest economy in all of human history without oil and gas. And for President Biden and his people to just say, well, we're going to get rid of all of our oil and gas. And I don't think that circumstance is going to change for a long time. So why would this president intentionally put thousands and thousands of American workers out of work? For what? Our CO2 emissions are going down. China's are going up.
So forget politics. There's a lack of logic.
Yeah, it's bad policy and it's bad politics. So during the campaign, he did say that he wasn't going to ban hydraulic fracturing when he was campaigning in Pennsylvania because you have the Marcellus Shale there, which employs and has created lucrative opportunities for many blue-collar workers. In many parts of our country, we call it the blue-collar boom, especially in the oil and gas fields. But when he gets elected, he then allows the environmental left to then take over policy. And as we've talked about, and as Senator Kennedy pointed out, it's bad policy, but it's also bad politics because we're going to hold him accountable at the ballot box. So think about all the oil and gas producing states, whether it's red states like Wyoming or blue states, even like New Mexico. New Mexico will face a historic budget shortfall with the Democratic leadership there by agreeing with the Biden policies. And so I think it's bad politics in the long run, especially if we're successful in the courthouse, but hold them accountable at the ballot box as well.
So you formed the Texas Defense Task Force, right?
That's correct. So we decided to formalize what we did during the Obama days by assembling not only attorneys that we have at our agency that do a great job of protecting the 13 million acres that we manage day to day, but bringing in organizations like the Texas Public Policy Foundation, the Federalist Society, and other conservative-leaning litigators that can help us throughout the country assemble with other Western states and basically be vigilant and fight back, not only in the courthouse, but also find solutions with what we hope to be the new president. But, you know, as has been pointed out on Keystone and the seizure of federal leasing on oil and gas activity, the president and his team has refused to sit down with industry, and they've refused to take our calls. So the only recourse available to us is to take this to the courthouse to work with private industry, ranchers, farmers, landowners that continue to be victimized by federal overreach.